Ashley, let's go to the hotline and bring in the Texas High School Football Hall of Famer, who I believe is not going to redshirt this season and sit out for 2020, at least not that I've heard. We're joined by Craig Way. Craig, how are you?
I've already played in 5 games, so I can't do it.
Oh, it's tough.
I've appeared in 5, so I'm committed to this year anyway.
Let's talk a little bit about Texas High School football, which I feel like was a little bit calmer in Week 4 as opposed to Week 3, although that is an extremely low bar to clear, considering all the chaos in Week 3. Overall, now that you've had a little bit of time to digest what went on in Week 4, what are the big things that stand out to you?
I think you make a great point, Tep, because we had a tidal wave of chaos in that third week. So yeah, it was kind of a ripple. It was still, when you think about it, some of the things that we saw, and a couple of the surprises and eyebrow raisers, as we mentioned, those kinds of things on a normal, and what after all is normal anyway, but on a normal week, we'd look at that and go, wow, there's a surprise. There's a ranked team losing. There's another ranked team losing. There's a couple. But given what we dealt with the week before, yeah, it felt kind of almost sedate. Almost felt like we had to dig a little bit to see some surprises. And I don't know about you, because for folks who don't know the dynamic, and I know you've mapped it out for them, when we do a show on Friday night, we get a lot of stuff flying at us, scores, highlights. We do the interviews and things like that. But it all comes real fast, and the old drinking from a fire hose, we're trying to get as much down as we can. But we're not 100% in tune with every single game over 700 that happened on a Friday night, right? So when we get off the set, we find out something or say, hey, how'd so-and-so do? Wow, what? And I wish I had $1 for every time you and I did that when we late in the show or when we came off the set to do that. And then to take it a step further, you get to Sunday and find out about some surprises that happened on Saturday. So I think that the last week was sedate by comparison to what we saw, given all of the carnage that happened in the prior week when it had you and your outstanding staff just absolutely spinning your heads as to what you were going to do with the weekly rankings.
Right. Well, it was just nice to actually have a bit of a calm week, I would say, that we don't have to completely rip up our rankings and start all over. One game that I feel like we haven't talked about enough from a statewide perspective, and I know we viewed it kind of as a litmus test down in the San Antonio area, was Converse Judson and Sybil of Steel. Of course, it's always a big-time game, big-time district game down there, and, of course, a district opener this year. Converse Judson comes out with a 51-48 win in that one. We're always curious as to when is going to be the year that San Antonio makes a comeback and jumps back into the statewide conversation. Do you feel like we're any closer to understanding if they are in fact ready to contend for titles at the 6A level coming off of this game? Maybe there. I mean, of course, there are other 6A teams that would like a word in the San Antonio area as well. But this, of course, has a lot of headliners. Do you feel like we're any closer to actually having a finger on the pulse of what's going on in San Antonio?
Well, I think it's a logical place to start, Jeff, because usually if we're talking 6A, and we're talking San Antonio, you begin with Judson, clearly, because of their pedigree. Not only because of their pedigree, but on a year-in, year-out basis, they're normally going to be the best hope. Steel right there with them, but normally, certainly 6A D1, clearly, they've been annually the best hope, where Steel has been the best hope probably in D2. So when those two play, we cast a lot of attention on it, and usually the game does not fail to disappoint, and it clearly did not fail to disappoint this year. Did we learn that much more about Judson? Not sure, because and I don't know that we did, simply because I think Steel is good. Are they on the caliber of say Longview or Westlake or maybe a Cy-Fair or somebody like that. I don't know, but I mean, we know that those are two good teams capable of making run. The question is, I think we should look at the San Antonio area in much the same way, which, to be fair, for decades, or at least over a decade, we've looked at West Texas trying to get past the Metroplex, that big stone wall in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. I think the same thing applies here with regard to the San Antonio area, that two-team Austin wall of Lake Travis and Westlake. Can they hurdle that wall? Can they get past that? Because if they can, and we've seen it happen a little bit. We saw with Steele a couple years back against us, reaching the final against DeSoto. Judson has had less success with that because they've had to deal with Lake Travis. So can they get past that? Early indications, hopeful. Impressed with what Robbie Williams is doing there. We'll see as the season develops, but I think the signs are good anyway.
Craig Way, the Texas High School Football Hall of Famer, joining us as he does every Tuesday here on Texas Football Today. Get involved in the conversation, hashtag TF Today. Okay, I've made a point a couple of times, and I think I even made it on your show, about Saturday night games and how they simply do not get the attention. They tend to fly under the radar because, look, we are football fans writ large, and so a lot of people are paying attention to college football that day. You were literally calling the Texas-Oklahoma State game as Bridgeland beat Cy Range. That is, in my mind, a seismic move, a seismic game in the Houston area that Bridgeland, the newcomer in Cy-Fair ISD, now takes over the pole position in District 14-6A. Am I wrong in saying that if you play a game on Saturday, maybe just because of literally the timing of it, it kind of gets lost in the wash a little bit, and this may be the kind of result that, from a statewide perspective, people may be underselling a little bit?
Listen. Buzz Bissinger wrote a book that was on the New York Times bestseller list for months and months. It wasn't called Saturday Night Lights. It was called Friday Night Lights. And the reason why is we know the vast majority of the action happens on Friday night. As a result, some of that stuff is going to fly under the radar. It just does, at least until you get to the playoffs. Then we get to playoffs Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays. Like I said, I've always said, and I said it again on my show this morning, all playoff matchups are created equal. Some are just more attractive than others. However, the in the case of this, yeah, it's rather seismic. I think, see if you agree with me on this, Pep, maybe we've become a little bit desensitized to extremely youthful programs making noise, and the poster child for that is Shadow Creek. For what they did last year. Even Leander Glenn and the crazy mixed-up world of 13-5A Division II making the playoffs in their first varsity season, winning a district title. We've become a little desensitized to it, but it doesn't happen often at the largest level. I mean, the famous Beaumont Westbrook run of 82 at the 5A level, then the state's highest classification, is the best example of that. You don't have many opportunities to see a brand new 6A program take it and run with it. And so that's why seeing what we've seen with Bridgeland's pretty impressive. Yeah,
and I think that's an important distinction from the big school level, because I was thinking, okay, well, we go back to 2015 with Brock, right? And that was a program that had just started playing football, but of course wins a title in 2015, I believe in their second varsity season. But that is also at the 3A level. And then you have other there are always these mitigating circumstances. I go down to the 6-man ranks with Lakey. Lakey was playing 11-man ball forever. They dropped down to 6-man ball and were suddenly a force and made a semifinal last year. But your point is certainly well taken, that I think that we've got to stop assuming that new programs are just going to finish 9th in their district every single year just because they're new. I want to go give you a little bit of home field advantage here, because there's a game I'm fascinated with in your neck of the woods. A battle of unbeatens for the top spot, I guess theoretically the top spot, in District 13-6A. In Vandegrift and Vista Ridge. I asked Matt Stepp this on the podcast yesterday. I said this is a question of whether or not Vista Ridge has the juice. They're 4-0. I know that they're very excited out there for this Rangers team. Sell me on this game being. I still feel like it would probably be a shocker if Vista Ridge were the knockoff Vandegrift, but this feels like a pretty monumental game down there in the Austin area.
Here's the first thing I would sell you on. The district has 3 blockbusters this week.
Yeah.
That district. In addition to that, you have Cedar Ridge and Stony Point, and Stony is another one of those. Hey, wait a minute, they're unbeaten, type deals. Although we've seen Craig Cheshire, at times wave a magic wand with what he's done with his programs. But that's an attractive one. Then you got the oldest matchup in Round Rock ISD history. You got Round Rock against Westwood, the old battle for the bell, and they do play for a bell. So that's another one of those trophy games. And Westwood has an incredibly dynamic offense, and Round Rock does too. That could be in the 60-something to 50-something range. You could have something like that. But you're right. The headliner clearly is Vandegrift and Vista Ridge for any number of reasons. Start with the fact they're both unbeaten. Start with the fact that you still have Vandegrift in your rankings. Although I will tell you today, I got some raised eyebrows for folks going, wait a minute. Vandegrift won and they dropped 9 spots in the rankings. 9 spots, and I was like, okay, beauty points here. And Vandy did not have any of those in beating at least this season somewhat downtrodden Hendrickson team. So so there was that. So there's that, and then I think folks are still trying to get the full handle on Vista Ridge. For years, Rodney Vincent's calling card was defense. It always has been. He was the defensive coordinator. That was his deal. When they made their great run in 15 and went to the semifinals in 581, it was largely on the strength of their defense. Well, it's their offense that's getting all the headlines. Kyle Brown, who's the son of the offensive coordinator there, Todd Brown, is lighting it up. I think he threw for 353 and 5 touchdowns last week and ran for another. And they play unusual games, Tep. They have weird stuff happen in their games. They had in the game against Westwood, they had a pick 6 nullified because of a sideline warning, a sideline violation.
Goodness.
Undaunted, they got a stop and threw a Hail Mary on the final play of the first half that worked and got a touchdown. Scored 28 unanswered or 27 unanswered, then saw Westwood come back and score 20-something in a row, recover an onside kick. It was crazy. Crazy town banana pants. I'll just say it. It was nuts, and Vista Ridge held on for a 49-43 win. So it is logical, completely logical, to assume that they would be the underdog and maybe even somewhat of a significant underdog on Friday against Vandegrift. I will also point out 2 other things. The game's at Gupton, so it's Vista's home game, and there's a real undercurrent of nastiness between these two. It's a rivalry. It goes back to really when they played twice in 15, when Vandegrift won the regular season game 63-49, and then Vista beat him in the quarterfinal rematch, and it was a 24-17 where the defense stepped up. So it's, there's some history there. A lot of the kids know each other. The district's back up doing it. There's some nastiness. So yeah, it's got a lot of spice to it, I think, this week.
Finally, for Craig Way, it is of course the Texas Longhorns bye week, and you talk to any coach worth his salt, and I'm sure that Tom Herman will say the same thing on his radio show. As he will say, "Oh, it's not a bye week. It's not an off week. This is a work week. This is we got to get better." So my question is, when you're the voice of a team that has the week off, what's the bye week like for the voice of the Longhorns?
Okay, a couple of things. First of all, you're right. The key words there are open date. Mm-hmm. You're right. You don't say bye and you don't say off with them because they're like, we're working. We're all working. That's one of the things they'll say, one. 2, I'm sure Coach Herman would say that on his radio show if he had one this week. The radio show, because the team has an open date, the radio show has an open date this week. So there's that, okay? But to answer your question, It's a regular work week. In fact, as we visit right now, I'm driving to the campus of Southwestern University to visit with Joe Austin, the head coach of the Pirates, who do not have an open date this week. They're playing Texas Lutheran down in Seguin, so they'll hop on that 130 Coal Road and just, zoom down there where it's the fastest speed limit in Texas. I don't think the team buses will do 80 or 85, but you can, but you can get on that toll road and make some time. Anyway, they're playing Texas Lutheran, and I'm going over to visit with him because I do reports on all three of the area's college football programs, including Texas State. So I'm going to have a little sit-down visit with Joe Austin, ask him about Landry Gilpin,
who
transitioned nicely in the backfield last week for them in their 50-3 win over Louisiana College. So I do all of that stuff. Then I'm up seeing you on Friday, and then staying over to go see my alma mater play on Saturday night, North Texas.
Can I get a go, Mean Green?
That is...
I'll be there. I will be there.
Beautiful.
Pickle.
We will see you there then.
He is Craig Way. He is the Texas High School Football Hall of Famer and the voice of the Texas Longhorns, and just a roving reporter, even on his open date. Craig, appreciate your time, my friend, and I will see you on Friday night.
All right. See you then, Tep.
There he goes, Craig Way, the Texas High School Football Hall of Famer, who's on his way to go talk about our most special Rio Grande Valley boy, Landry Gilpin. Who, of course, if you missed yesterday, Landry Gilpin ran for 104 yards and 2 touchdowns last week, and also threw for 27 yards in their big win over Louisiana College. So go Landry Gilpin.
I wish I had like a replay system where I could get you going, our very special boy, again.
Our most special boy. Our very most special boy.